it's not always that you get an opportunity to peek into the minds of a business leader, especially one who has actually been running a large global top 10 business house as a CTO. I really jumped at this opportunity when I was invited to chat with you. And not to forget, when the first name of the person is Mukesh, and he's also worked with the big Mukesh in Mumbai. So let's just talk a little bit about some of these cool things that have happened. One of the things that particularly drew attention was the fact that you were able to solve this problem about the spam filter for the world's richest man. Now, I'm sure there are several such incidents that have happened in your career. Anything that, any other similar problem-solving opportunity that you can think of, perhaps with the, either the Mukesh Ambani group or even the Satya Nadella run Microsoft. The reason I'm saying this is this aspect of scale, which you brought up a little earlier in your talk and also came up just now in the chat with Mr. Sumit, is that this is something that is somewhat alien to us as in Indian entrepreneurs, businesses and so on. Although with the kind of population and so on, we should actually be understanding scale better than anybody else, which we are now beginning to see with UID and so on. I want to understand in a product perspective, when you were working with these companies, how important is scale? Like when you are building Microsoft Outlook, for example, it is something that is now addressing 200 million users, 300 million users, 500 million users. So at what point do you start considering scale as an aspect of design?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me again here. Let me start with the spam filter, my thought process about how this was happening. As I've already talked about the curiosity part, the puchne mein kya jata hai attitude, right? That's how I started. But I always believed technology, artificial intelligence, anything what we do talk about, right? It has to do with human behavior. I was always fascinated by human behavior, even though I'm not a psychologist or expert in that area. But I thought human behavior is always there and they need to look into this. So when I heard about Bill Gates' issue in that meeting, I was invited in that meeting for one specific quality of mine, which was at that time the junior most person in the team. So in Microsoft, they have the culture wherein if an important meeting with Bill Gates is happening, they will take one junior most person in the team. So that quality qualified me to be there with no other quality. So I just happened to be in that meeting, and when Bill Gates said, I get 15,000 junk email per day, and when are you going to do this? And the GM said, oh, it's a complicated one, we'll do it after 2 years. 2 years, 15,000 junk mail per day. I was curious. Of course, Bill Gates left the meeting. He was not happy. And then when I raised my hand, puchne mein kya jata hai? And I say, I can try. And I said, no, it's not your thing. But I kept thinking that why are we solving it by NLP? First, you need to do human behavior. But nobody listened to that. Then I thought, you know what? Let me just do it. So that part about, let me just start. Because, somebody have to solve the problem. The same reaction I had when I came back to India. I was hiring from some colleges. And I see the quality of the students are not at par. Even for Microsoft, right? Then I thought, you know what? It's very easy for me to continue to blame. Hey, government should do something about it. I said, no, let me start teaching myself. So like that same attitude, let me start for solving this problem. I did it on my own thing. It took me 3 months. The point was, whatever I'm doing, will it scale? And at that time, I wanted to make even though I was not aware of data privacy and other things and all, I wanted to make sure it's a local solution on the local machine. So I was also struggling with the point, will that have enough space on the machine? So thinking next, when I teach a scale at some of the university, when I have a subject which is scaling for millions of users. So when I teach this subject, I talk about it to answer your question. It's not an afterthought. It's day one. You have to think about scale day one. And that is something which I've learned building Outlook, which is used by 400 million users, building Geo, which is again used by 400 plus million users. And that exactly the scale is day one, not an afterthought. In that part, what will happen when scale happens? People say, we need to do performance testing. That's why my second book is about web performance. It's not about performance testing. It's about, is it working part? And scale, who better can understand than India, right? Now look at it. UPI, outstanding. I spent 13 years in US, not a single application, not a single way for me to transfer money to you. It will take hours, if not days. Even today. But here, 1 second, gone, done. UPI is done. And you can go to Paris and then pay for Eiffel Tower. 1 second. I think that part is innovation, and that's where some of the people in India are able to think about scale. And I met some of the leaders, and I was also part of Niti Aayog committee when we were talking about data privacy and everything for India. And I kept bringing the point, hey, we need to think about scale. We need to think about what can happen long. I think we are just beginning in India to be able to realize the scale and the architecture part and all. Not many subjects teach scale, by the way, in India, even today. Even IIT earns, we don't. So these are the opportunities where we need to teach scale day one. I think that's the opportunity I would say.
Let's now move on to the 900-pound gorilla in the room, which is generative AI, or an aspect of AI, which is beginning to manifest itself in everybody's life. So if you look at very quickly the waves of tech that have been impacting us, I think the 80s was more about PC and the web, the GUI, and then it was about the internet. Then it was about mobile internet and smartphones. Then it was cloud and distributed computing. Now we are talking about AI and ML, which is just beginning. And we're also seeing the speed and impact, which is probably the highest in the most compressed time frame, right? It's impacting everyone, every sector, government, and so on. So for young business students here who are just beginning to build their career, do you think they should be concerned, or do you think they should be opportunistic? Should they be excited about the opportunities, or should they be worried about what kind of concerns? Is it going to take away jobs? And this upskilling is a never-ending job now. I think it's understood, right? We are never done with it. So any thoughts there? What do you think coming from this background?
Sure. So my interaction with AI was 32 years back. I'm not that old, by the way. 32 years. In Mumbai, there was a bookstore called Computer Bookshop near VT. And now it's called CST. So I went there and was just browsing through some books, and I found this book called Artificial Intelligence. I'm like, wow, if the intelligence can be artificial, it will be amazing. I'm talking about 1992. So I was just going through the book. I like it. I would try to convince my principal and college that we should have this as an elective and everything. After a lot of reluctance, she agreed. And then the time came for speaking of the subject, right? Only 5 people picked up the subject. And then, of course, the subject was shot down. I had to convince other people. 20 people finally I got convinced to take AI. And the first lecture comes in. All excited, like eyes wide open, like 3 idiots, right? And they were sitting in the front row. And then the teacher started teaching. Question. She ran away. Too many questions. So all my friends who took the electives said, Mukesh, because of you, and I started hitting me and all this. I was learning on my own. And then somebody gave a suggestion, Mukesh, why don't you teach your own class? That was my first lecture in AI. So I taught my own class, and that year the whole batch passed in our college on AI. That actually gave me the confidence that AI is there for sure. But anywhere I talked about, like my project was on AI, a speech, and in the year 1993, my principal, dean, everybody told me, HOD, that no, don't do this project, nobody will help you. So with that reluctance, hesitation and all, I was still doing AI, finding out place to do, including the junk spam filter that I did and all. Now, last 7 years, AI is picking up. People are not talking about AI. Unfortunately, with Gen AI, last 1.5 years, people think AI equal to Gen AI, which is completely wrong. And I had to tell that no, Gen AI is not AI. Gen AI is a subset of AI, maybe 1%, maybe 2% of the AI, right? About 30 years back, one of the parliamentarian in India, I will not name that, he made a comment that with computers coming to India, people are going to lose jobs. And we know what happens. Same thing with AI, Gen AI, people think that we are going to lose jobs. I'm sure people will lose jobs. People who stop learning, people who don't reinvent themselves. And maybe they may not have enough job to do, because a lot of things would have been automated. But if you're thinking that is what I'm going to do, then think about it. Humans were there for intelligence. We should have intelligence. That the thing I emphasized in my session was product management, right? I don't think computers can do product management. I don't think AI can do product management. It is still human who will come up with the idea and do the. Do you think UPI can be done by Gen AI? Cannot be. So it is still a human intelligence, the product manager, which we have to do, and that's why we should focus on. Today in my role as a CTO, I would say 70% of the time I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I'm doing innovation, but there is 30% which I don't like. I wish Gen AI can solve 5% of that, and that's what I will be looking for always, so that I can do 90% innovation, 99% innovation. I think that's exactly what we all should. We should not be afraid of what's coming. Find out opportunity. Yes, I can do this part and all, and then be ready for this. And yes, companies will pick you up, not because you know how to write the prompt engineering. They will never pick you up because you know prompt engineering. They will never pick you up because you know how to write code. They will pick you up because you can do problem solving. They can pick you up because you can do things beyond. You can think scale. My daughter just went through Google interview, 12 rounds of interview. She still beat me. I went for 14 rounds of interview at Microsoft. So they wanted to make sure, thok baja ke, acha maal hai, right? They are taking, right? Why are they taking? It's not just coder. They don't want just another coder. They want somebody who can think scale and all. Is the person be able to serve the company for another 5 years and do some innovation which is big? Gen AI is a tool, is an assistant for us to be able to do it.
Let's look quickly at, for example, the organization that you're coming from, Capgemini, as one of the largest consulting houses, right? Now, and a lot of our students graduate and take up consulting roles into consulting companies and so on. So question would be, in your scheme of things, do you think that the next generation of business grads that are hired will be expected to do different roles as consultants, or do you think that's not going to change so much?
I would say the roles are evolving more and more. For example, the traditional role of a software developer is going to continue, but probably it will shrink. The person who can curate, like a chef or somebody, right? You can curate like a consultant, who I can get this from here, this from here, this from here, and this becomes a perfect recipe, and here's a solution for you. I think those unique capability consultant will be a lot more required in the consulting job, because people want to solve the problem faster. Yes, PPTs and everything, yeah, that can be automated. The PPT creation is automated now. Now you focus just on the ideas. So if you don't know that 25 technologies to do this, there are 35 use cases on this, 60 use cases on that, then you will be left out anyways. So that's where consulting job job is going to continue, will be a lot more, but more as an orchestrator of about knowing same thing as jack of all and master of some, knowing multiple, finding out what best combination will work and giving that solution. That will be the differentiating factor. But all of those things may not be, people may not even know that you exist if you're not on LinkedIn. But talk about it. Don't necessarily share your patents and your ideas and all, but at least be aware, at least be there to communicate to people that this is how it is happening and all. So I think the role of consultant is going to become more bigger, and the specialization part will probably, be very niche skill that, okay, we want to have solved this particular scale problem. Just hire the specialization for 2 days, 5 days, 10 days and continue. But consultant to orchestrate will be a lot more important now. Like MBA Technology Management kind of a consultant, which is again multiple things you are aware of, will be a lot more important.
So I want to spend at this moment a minute of time just to focus on this particular aspect, because as a part of the tech management group study, we are looking at a changing role of technology in India, for example, not as businesses that are anymore simply deploying technologies that they have been doing all along, but in this new avatar, because the Indian industry is evolving, we see new roles for our folks where we actually own the technology or define the technology or build the technology for the world. That's beginning to happen. For example, there's a Zoho, there's a locally built technologies and so on, where for the first time we'll actually start owning intellectual property. We will be defining roadmaps, we'll be defining tricks, we'll be defining measurement, we'll be defining new distribution methods in whether be it SaaS or a physical product. And it's happening even in the physical product, like industries, EV cars, EV bikes and so on. We see a completely new set of profiles for our grads getting out of here. And do you want to spend a minute on that? Having worked with the large global players already like Microsoft and so on, what kind of roles do you see for Indian intellectual property owners?
So one of the things which I'll emphasize again, because see, a lot of the innovation happening at Microsoft and Google and all, but who are doing this? Same Indians. Right? But when we are here, right, we have slightly different mindset than over there. I'll give my personal incident, if I may. 1993, when I was invited, I was again presenting and I was just sending up papers and all. So I was invited by IEEE to present my paper in an Aurangabad conference, which was on artificial intelligence on speech. So I go on a stage and I start speaking and I stammer. The whole crowd started laughing. I don't know if you have noticed, I still stammer by the way, but little less. The whole crowd started laughing. I stopped my presentation. I started laughing. See, you're laughing now. The whole crowd stopped laughing. I stopped laughing and I continued my presentation. Yes, it was a pain for me where people used to tell me Totla. People used to tell me, Mukesh, you stammer. Yes, I stammer. Big deal. But my things will not stammer. The reason I was sharing this story is because several people I've seen firsthand, several people will go into cocoon or will try to not to speak in public because people will laugh. Log kya kahenge? Log hasenge to. That fear of failure is big in India. Very big and very bad in India. Because of which a lot of innovation doesn't happen. Even if the person has the best idea, doesn't happen because log hasenge to. And there are so many cases, even today people laugh at me. Theek hai na? I also laugh. So that part. But when I learned this part, I was always thinking, like, how come US have so much innovation? But when I saw this firsthand, how they are teaching the kids not to fear of failure, not to have the fear of failure. And then I learned that, yeah, this part is missing in India. Second part. We do have product management, but we have that attitude normally towards, aap batao kya karna, main kar lunga. The service mindset. You tell me what to do and I'll do it for you. That will not get us to build products. Some of the great products, Zoho is a great product. I don't think even in US we have this kind of product. So these products are there. Zoho, definitely great. UPI, Aadhaar, you cannot beat. 18 countries are using this by the way. And I'm really amazed. I visited TAPMI Bengaluru a few weeks back. They have open sourced this. Outstanding. This is what India can lead. Yes, these countries, you can use it. I'm sure US, I'm a US citizen by the way. So US will have more problem to adopt Aadhaar. They may not even adopt Aadhaar, but there are hundreds of other countries who will adopt Aadhaar because it is good for them. It's important. UPI and so many applications on top of it. So I think India have that capability. It's there. But in India, because of fear of failure, they don't speak as much. But the same kids, same people, when they go to other countries, they open up. The fear of failure is not there. And then they will be able to innovate. So I think it's just the environment for us as a managers, us as a leaders, need to give that comfort environment, do it. As I talked about, right? The example I talked about, the 5 days, every day I have this event and people are loving it. And in just during my tenure, 374 innovation have done in Capgemini under my leadership in the CTO. Because people are no fear. Kuch bhi leke aao, kuch bhi batao. Yes, I'm rude in some time. I tell people, kitna fekhte ho? Bakwas hai, wapis leke aao, leke jao. I'm rude. Yes, because rude, mere se gali sunna acha better hai, rather than not moving the career, right? So I think that culture still need to happen. The teachers should allow people to think, what is apple color? Apple color can be red. Apple color can have red with the stripes of yellow. Apple color can also be green. That allow that freedom to happen. It's not happening. I gave several letters to education ministry that, allow the teachers to allow this to people to have innovation. My son lost 1 mark, because you're talking about 1 mark. Yeah. My son lost 1 mark because he didn't do exactly what was written in the textbook. It's pain, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad we now are touching upon a softer aspect, because the title of this discussion is really about achieving leadership in business and life. We should also talk a little bit about life. And I think it's unfortunate that so far, but the default connotation of success and business leadership is always about business. It's rarely leadership about life. Now, for example, you don't want to actually end up with that promotion that you've been wanting for the last 20 years and come home and find your divorce papers on the table. When are we going to internalize leadership in life? For example, emotional leadership. How good are your relationships? Because you don't want to have success at the cost of something else, like our dean mentioned earlier in the part of the discussion. So for you as a business leader, you already achieved a certain status, certain level of success. How have you been able to manage relationship and keep the success at life also running equally well?
So I would say in life, I think success in business, success in career and everything is always should be secondary. Your always family should be always first. As I was talking, right, my initial years of my career, I was pressurized or whatever, right, in family that get married soon. I got married and having a kid soon. I did that part. So made sure my family commitments are priority than my career. But then I learned after marrying, then I realized it was good because I have a really good buddy, my wife, whom I can regularly talk to. Now I have 3 buddies, my wife, my daughter and my son, which I can talk openly about. But when I started talking and then I started discussing, consulting, what I'm doing this, what do you think about it and everything, I really felt that I was actually involved. And I can tell you there are so many years in my life where I said, only family focus. And then I'll take permission. For next 6 months, can I just run fast? My family will support that. And I run fast, come back, again family focus. I run fast, come back, family focus and everything. So it actually helped making sure you openly talk about it. And then, hey, I want to do promotion and please don't disturb me and I'm going to be, no, doesn't happen. But at the same time, ultimately you need promotion also, you need money also. The day when family start thinking that the family feeling proud about your achievement also, which I'm sure always it is, that's how you realize that you actually cracked the whole combination. You found out that sweet spot that it's both. Yes, this is my dad. That proud fact. Because otherwise, you are just another person. So I think it's important. You cannot just say family is always important, stay at home all the time and all. No, even family doesn't expect you to do that part. But at least don't be other extreme wherein you're always traveling, never available for the family. Don't do that part. That's it.
There's one other aspect I wanted to touch upon here. Is it audible now? And that is the importance of personal branding and how I've even coaching startup founders. Many of them I know they already have let's say $500,000 business and so on, but they're not willing to do branding. They're not willing to do branding for their product, for their companies, and that's impacting their pricing. It's impacting their ability to attract talent. It's impacting their ability to create a presence in the industry, but they're not willing to make that. And I'm beginning to think that why is this an issue? Is this also a cultural issue? And if you go back, it probably could have started if the founder was in a business school, for example, like all of these kids who are now beginning to get into college, get into 2 years from now, they will be creating their own careers. So I think it's important for them to already start personal branding at this. What do you think?
See, personal branding is something which I will say the 2 parts. One is definitely the cultural element. We are not as outspoken. As I'm talking about the kindergarten kids were taught about explaining the teddy bear and then the whole continued the story for almost 6 months, the same teddy bear, and they kept adding, right? So they know how to express themselves. So I would strongly suggest it's important because my experience when I came back to India 13 years back, I had only 400 connections on LinkedIn. And then I actually thought, wait a minute, if I want to have a job, how would I even reach out to people? Traditional job applying and all was happening because my goal was not to come back to India, by the way. My goal was to come back to Mumbai. Microsoft not in Mumbai, Microsoft was in Bangalore. I was looking at opportunity to come to Mumbai. It took me 1 year, from 400 connection to 30,000 connections. So I reached that point and then I thought, okay, now it's good. Somebody randomly have connected with me, I accepted and all. And then he asked me, Mukesh, give me your phone number. I said, sorry, I'm not going to give you a phone number. I'm calling from Mukesh Ambani's office. Immediately gave me a phone number. Called me. Mukesh Ambani want to meet you. Went to Mumbai, had an interaction.
So you're like, Mukesh Bhai, this is Mukesh Bhai.
My name is Mukesh. Yeah, mine also. So I asked him this question, why he want to hire me? He would have got some good Dhurandhar, like some expert advertising person. Why he want to hire me? No, we want to hire somebody. We have been monitoring you. We want to hire somebody who can come and change the way we think about product, change the way we do scale. Hired and I left Microsoft and joined them, right? If I had not done that on LinkedIn, I would not have got all the jobs I got in India so far through LinkedIn. All the jobs I decided not to take through LinkedIn. So personal branding is important, not just for you to get jobs, your business. A lot of those things will happen. As Sumit very well said, your next founder or the next colleague you will be hiring. All my leadership I've hired only from LinkedIn, by the way. So definitely it's very, very important. I would say it's important.
Exactly. And I think it also brings clarity to yourself about where you're going. Because if you don't know what your positioning is going to be, how do you expect a company that's going to hire you to know about it? So that's definitely one more thing. And we are, I think, in approaching the wrap-up time. But I want to ask you any other general comments that you want to share in terms of business leadership. What is the journey that one should look forward to? I know it's chaotic out there and it's never as we expect in a book, and life has its own surprises. But is any general principles of direction that you think that you want to share here?
So let me give you a 3-part answer. So one of the things which I want to just echo what Sumit mentioned a few minutes back, right? First and foremost, have short goals and pat on your back when you achieve those short goals. Celebration. It's important because it's otherwise never-ending story. I don't want you to pat your back when you're retired. You will, but then even earlier, do some short goals, achieve those, pat on the back. But keep thinking big that I want to achieve those parts. So that's the first part of it, which is have short goals, celebrate, and continue to look at those and look at the goal. And you can modify the goal also once in a while. That's okay. That's the first part of it. Second part, be in the know. You should know. Right now, I'm just picking on artificial intelligence, which is part of the curriculum. You'll learn this part anyways. But just understand this part. Artificial intelligence is anything and everything. Problem solving. Chief problem solving officer, right? Sumit is here, right? It's not just about problem solving, right? Understand how you'll solve problem with AI. How you'll solve problem with the technology part. Right? Just be in the know. AI, even the basics you can learn on YouTube, by the way, right? So learn some of the basics part and say, okay, in retail, this is the problem. How can I solve this problem? Recently, I solved one problem for one of the retail giant in UK, and it was about a lost opportunity. अगर उसका data ही नहीं है, तो how will you solve the problem? And we solve the problem with that also, which means there is no data available. But how can you solve the problem? Which means you go to a D-Mart or some store in India, right? And if the ketchup is missing, there's no ketchup there. Some people might just go and ask for it. Some people will just walk out. Some people not much, right? So if your stock if you wanted to buy 10 and you only have 2, what would you do? So if you're not there, data is not even captured, right? So come back with the point that if this kind of problems in retail, this kind of problem in supply chain, how would this happen? Including one of my students was doing supply chain for COVID vaccine, the first wave, which was sent out to elderly people and all. And he was asking me, but as I told him that you are working on a very critical project, don't share any information from your side. But I'll give you some simple tip. Use Aadhaar database. Find out what age people, which pin code they are living, and extrapolate using this part. But Mukesh, Aadhaar database is not accurate. I said, fine. You pick a number. 80% accurate? Yeah, Mukesh, 85% accurate. Okay. Start looking at all this thing and see how you'll be able to solve problem with data and AI and these things are already there. You just have to do the right mix. There's a second part. And third most important part, which I will tell you, right? I mentioned a couple of times, right? I made some mistakes in my life of not respecting people sometimes. It's important. You cannot satisfy everybody. If you want to satisfy everybody, then please leave and do an ice cream selling job. You'll satisfy everybody. You'll make everybody happy. It's not our job to make everybody. But even if you are making anybody upset, at least tell them why you're making them upset. The empathy part of it, the people part of it, it's important. It's important because I think I've learned about the people part of it after 7-8 years of my job. Then I realized it's important to have people, but not compromising anything. You're still doing what you are right, what is right for the company. Don't compromise on that. But then at the same time, don't kill people around you just because you want to achieve something. So that part, I think we can do it. Especially with the kind of environment we are living and everything, we need people to work with, and together we can do a lot more. That's why one of the session I did recently was 2 plus 2 is more than 4. Wanted to say 2 plus 2 5, then somebody will say copy Amitabh Bachchan ka copy kar liya, 2 5. I said fine, I will not copy that. So 2 plus 2 is greater than 4. So just think about that also. So these 3 parts.
Thank you very much, Mukesh. Absolute pleasure chatting with you and picking your mind on sharing all these wonderful thoughts with the boys.
Thank you.